Every life has a story, and every story is worth sharing. Your story, my story, and our story speak of victory and defeat, joy and sorrow, resilience and vulnerability. They are not just our story, they are Christ's story in us. They are Kingdom Stories from Down Under.
It's always beautiful to hear a story from one of the spouses. It's even more beautiful when you hear the other side as well. Well, last week at Kingdom Stories from Down Under, we had Steve Scrimgeour. Tonight, we have the amazing privilege to hear his beautiful wife, Rosalind, sharing her life story. I can't wait to hear it. So I hope you're going to enjoy this. Welcome to the show, Rosalind.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's a joy for us. I mean, to hear Steve's story and now yours, it's just going to be awesome.
Yes, the other side of the coin.
I'm so glad you came to do this. So when you go to, let's say you're at a dinner party,
Yes.
Everybody has shared a little bit about themselves and now the focus is on you. And they say, so Rosalind, tell us a little bit about you. What do you say?
So I am normally the one that would sit in the background and let my husband do a lot of the talking.
He's not at the table this time.
He's not at the table. So Steve is very funny.
Yeah.
I would probably share a story from my background or my family life.
How would you introduce yourself?
I'm Rosalind.
Yeah.
I'm a mother of 3.
Yes.
And I am living my dream life. The life that I thought that I would live when I was a young girl. I'm living in the golden years.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's.
What makes it so golden?
I had a dream of what I would envision, and it involved children, involved loving God, being married to someone that loved Jesus, and being in the right place, the right time, and doing what God wanted me to do in that place. And here I am. It's just
And feeling
amazing.
totally restful in that. At ease in that.
At ease and also excited for what's ahead.
How old were you when you had that dream?
Probably from a very young age.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just been in love with Jesus for as long as I can remember. It's one of
So
my
you grew up
first
in a
memories.
Christian family?
Grew up in a Christian family. We didn't go to church very much. My father worked mostly 7 days a week.
Mm-hmm. He had a business or he was working for someone?
Yeah, he started a business before I was born, and it was on our property.
Mm-hmm.
And we were just hard for my
Farming
family.
or?
No, so he has an earth moving equipment business.
Yeah.
And so he started off fixing machines, and
Yes.
then he branched out and buying machines and hiring them out to shires and contracting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah, so Christian, my mum and my dad would teach us the word, and we'd sing scripture songs, and
How many children?
3 brothers, 1 sister.
Oh.
Yeah, so big
So
family.
were you really spoiled or you had to be a bit of a tomboy with them? Because it's usually one way or the other.
I grew up being tomboy,
Yeah.
catching up with my older brothers, because I'm right in the middle.
Okay.
2 older brothers, so I was always...
Trying to do what they do.
We grew up on a farm,
So
and so they have motorbikes and used to fix
horses?
things.
No horses?
No, we're not a
Quads?
horsing family.
Quads, motorbikes?
Yes,
Okay.
lots of machinery.
Uh-huh.
And I just love that. And I think one thing that Steve often picks me up, I'm like, oh, that's a really nice truck.
Oh, that's gold. That is gold.
Yeah, it's not something that people normally think about me, that I like machines. Yeah.
Well, there are cars and there are machines, and you're talking about machines because you know the difference.
Yes.
Most people don't know the difference.
Yes. Well, when we started dating, Steve would arrive in his really old Honda that had self-painted stripes on. Whereas all my brothers were in really nice like Mustangs, Corvettes, really nice cars.
V8s, powerful.
Yes.
Muscle
Yes.
cars. What were you driving? What was your first car?
I drew, first was a Holden and then a Toyota. I wasn't on that side of the muscle cars.
Okay.
No, I was more of a practical person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Have something that gets me from A to B.
What are your first memories of childhood?
One of my first memories was giving my heart to Jesus. It was one of my very first ones. And I did it on my own in my room. I had a salvation prayer on a pamphlet I used to get posted to me, little Bible stories that were sent out to children. My mum signed me up and it had lessons on there for fitted to your age.
Yeah.
And I just remember reading on the back of this lesson that I had and just gave my heart to Jesus.
You would have been 8, 9?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It was...
Did you tell your parents?
I don't think I did. I think I just carried on. And
Were the boys spiritual? Were they, or they were more playful and not really thinking too much about that?
yeah, more playful. We were in a Christian home, but because we weren't at church every Sunday, we would just go every now and then. They probably got into God a little bit later in life, in our teenage years.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any stories of fights with your brothers, or any? Were they tough on you, or were they nice to you?
My second eldest brother and I would...
Fight a lot.
Oh, yes. Yes. We'd have chats about not being... not teasing and me not getting beaten.
Did you fight back?
Oh, he was way bigger than me. It was more, the younger sister poking the older brother.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's cute.
Yeah. But we're all pretty close. All 5 of us live within about 15 minutes of each other now.
Oh, so they're nearby.
Yes.
So who's with your dad's business is still going?
Yes.
Are they working with your dad?
Yes, all 3 brothers work in the business.
Oh, that's wonderful. So that is very rare.
It is.
So your dad must be a good man that they stuck around.
He is, yeah. He's a very generous man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, one of the most generous people I know. Yeah,
That's
he's
beautiful.
Just inspired me, inspired our family to be generous in what God gives us. And he lives with such an open hand.
Yeah.
And, things aren't his, they're ours. And I just love that. I want that in our family, that what God gives us isn't just it's mine. And but to be open-handed in what he gives us is such a beautiful way to live. Mm.
Well, when you're open-handed, you can't really keep anything, can you? It falls.
Yeah.
But you actually have a choice where you hand that.
Yes.
And I think that's very important, because that comes back to responsibility, how you distribute, the wealth that the Lord has given you, how well you steward the resources that the Lord puts in your hands.
It's such a learning curve as well, stewardship. And as much as we learn in that area, I feel like when we give not just of our time, but financially as well, God just pours back into us. It's just amazing, the bounce back, and not expecting it, but it just comes in, and it flows out, and he just pours it back into us. It's just...
That's right.
It's beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's very hard to get to that place. I don't think many people do get there, because it's so, I think by default, we try to grab things.
Yes.
And generosity is so big in God's kingdom that it's almost like you got to learn, and you learn it by doing it.
Yes.
Kids learn it very quickly if you train them in that way. And you've probably seen that, and sometimes you wonder, why can't I do it the way they do it?
so freely.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
beautiful. And you're still on the farm with your parents? You live there with them?
No, so we live on a farm with my sister,
Mm-hmm.
and we love it.
Okay.
And growing up on a farm, and you just get used to that lifestyle.
Yeah, a lot of hard work, cutting the grass, cleaning.
Yeah, it's
The farm.
not too bad.
Is it a bush block or you've got?
We have beef cattle on there.
You've got beef cattle.
Yeah, so we're looking after it at the moment. My
Okay.
sister and her family looked after it for a few years, and
Yeah.
now we do it, and it's good fun.
Yeah.
It's not too intensive, so
Yeah, they're pretty much on their own, aren't they? You just got to bring the vet, make sure they've got food and stuff.
yes.
But it is beautiful, and for the kids, I think the lifestyle is just amazing, isn't it?
It's
Are they
awesome.
homeschooled or are they in public school or?
They're in our public school. We've actually just moved our eldest son to a Christian school.
Mm-hmm.
We've been praying for a long time about where God would want him to be.
Yep.
And he spoke quite clearly about him being with people that love Jesus. And he's in...
So is there a Christian school nearby? Is it a Hillside or Rehoboth or?
we're going to put him into Kerry, into
Okay.
their Forestdale
Okay.
campus.
Oh, there's a Kerry
It's a little bit
Baptist.
closer to us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Kerry
Oh,
Baptist.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
those formidable years for a child
Yeah.
growing up in a Christian atmosphere.
Very important.
Yes. Mm.
Great.
Yeah.
So teenage years in Perth. So you were born in Perth,
Yes.
born and raised here.
I was born here. I went to just a public local school in Baldarvis,
Mm-hmm.
and I went to a Catholic college in Rockingham called
Yeah.
the Catholic,
Mm-hmm.
and I was close to God all through my
Teenage
primary
years.
school years.
Okay.
Then when it hit high school, I wasn't that popular in primary school.
Mhm.
Then when it hit high school, for some reason, I have no idea why, it hit the popular group in high
Mhm.
school, year 8, and drifted away from God in probably year 8, year 9, those early years of high school, partying and enjoying that lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
And then pretty quickly saw the falsehood in that lifestyle, that just stepping away from a godly lifestyle.
Were your parents aware of this?
No.
You could hide it.
I could hide it. I would go to friends' houses and then we'd sneak off to a party
Yeah.
and
Would you drive? Not drive yet. How would you get away? Because
no.
there's
So
quite some big distances down south there.
yeah, so we'd have older people that could drive,
Yeah.
pick us up and take us to parties, and or even just my friends' parents would drop us off.
Yeah. Oh, they didn't mind. They didn't
They
have
didn't
the
mind.
values that your family would have had.
Yeah, and I just saw that that's not what I wanted.
It didn't fit in.
No,
You'd do it, but you wouldn't fit in.
that's right. And
Mhm. Alcohol?
yeah, so we'd have older people that would supply
Buy.
alcohol,
Yeah.
and it's just I couldn't handle that feeling of not having control of myself.
Mm.
And so my brothers, they started going to youth ministry in Armidale,
Yeah.
southeast of Perth, and when I was of age, I was able to go,
Yeah.
and I just let go of that party lifestyle, and it was just
It was
couldn't-
home. It was home.
it couldn't compare
No.
to walking with God. It was just a different sphere to walk in, and I didn't look back from that. It was just, this is it.
It was also good that you didn't damage yourself. There wasn't too many scars or anything like that.
That's
You
right.
just stopped in time where it could have gone. I mean, Rockingham, when you think about it, is quite a harsh area. There's a lot of drugs. There's a lot of crime there.
Yeah.
Could have gone really bad, and possibly that's where you would have gone to parties in that area, in that
Yeah, a lot of my friends were doing drugs at that time, and some of them dropped out of school.
The
And
consequences are pretty dramatic in that age group.
yes. Yeah, but I think having a Christian background, I had a line.
You had anchor.
A line that I
Lifeline.
would not cross.
Oh, okay.
So if
Yeah.
I go to a party, I wouldn't cross over that line.
And you kept yourself away from the boys, which was,
Yes.
that's probably what sheltered you as well.
Yes.
There were some things that were non-negotiable, basically.
Absolutely.
And I think that's a key. And I feel with that because I was the same when I was a teenager. So I'd go, let's say, I go to not so many parties, but I go to a nightclub or, a pub and just meet people and talk. But, I knew that, so first of all, I wasn't drinking, so I couldn't have the fun that we're having in the sense it didn't make sense to me. I'd play pool, I'd chat to people, and then on the other side, I couldn't really go with the girls because I was going to sleep with them. So you basically, you came back home and you thought, well, why did I even bother?
Waste of time.
But then, it's because you're searching for your identity. You don't know what you're trying to fit in. It's like the norm. Well, everyone's going out. Why should I stay home? It's Friday night or Saturday night. So it's interesting because you're searching, and that's how I was as well. So, and then so your brothers took you when must have been 14
It's 16.
or 16 for youth, and you became part of that ministry. You got really into it, didn't you?
Oh, I loved it. I was just, after being in the world and seeing what it was just like light to me. And had amazing friendships there, and I just loved serving.
You
God's
began
house.
serving,
being
fully immersed in it.
Fully immersed.
So you were teaching, you were helping out, organising stuff.
Running life group and trying to be on any team I could get onto.
Yeah.
I was just super keen.
Yeah.
I loved being involved. Yeah.
And you also had abilities. You had a bit of a leadership and organizational ability, didn't you? You were well organized. You could just see things. Was that a natural ability, or you picked that up working with Dad, or?
It just came naturally, and my youth pastors would call me out to do certain things, and I'd just step up and get it done. And
wonderful.
I really enjoyed it. I loved running teams, and I definitely learned how to be people focused rather than task focused.
Okay.
And so having that ability to get a job done and love the people at the same time.
Wow.
I loved
Did you have good mentors around you as well, or?
Yeah, excellent. So I was at Champion Lakes, so I had Dave and Ann Reardon were the youth pastors at that time.
Yeah.
And they were excellent at just raising up leaders. A lot of the leaders that in that ministry are now pastoring themselves and have grown.
It's amazing how important that is if there's a strong leadership or people that equip.
But they really exhibited how to do family and ministry. They did it as a couple, and they had their boys, and they were all involved in serving the young people. I just thought it was amazing.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. That's very inspirational. And then you went to, after finishing your 12, what did you do? You went to college, or?
I went to a travel college. I did that for 6 months and picked up a job in Leederville. And so I did that for a few years.
Where did you work in Leederville?
It was a ski mart, travel mart on Carr Street.
Okay.
It's just a little agency.
Yeah. Nice.
So
Galileo.
Yes. So many codes.
Yeah. That was good. Yeah.
Yeah, it was
I
good
think
fun.
I know it. It's just behind the Leederville Hotel.
Yeah. So it was next to a little Thai restaurant.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So we learnt to snowboard.
It's not there anymore.
Not there anymore. No.
Oh, you went on ski trips as well?
Of course.
You had to.
Yeah.
It was part of the
learn
package.
The product. So,
Threadwell?
we did Victoria. So I did Falls Creek and Mount Buller.
Okay.
And I've done the South Island of New Zealand.
Oh.
Yeah, and Japan.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. I love skiing. So my wife and I have skied in the US. We've skied in New Zealand. I've skied in Australia. I don't think she has skied in Australia, but I loved it. I skied in Austria as well.
Oh, amazing.
Beautiful.
Gorgeous.
Beautiful.
Mm.
Night skiing in the US was just glorious because it wasn't busy
Yes.
and it was so affordable. You'd pay like $25 to ski from 4 o'clock in the afternoon until 8:30 at night, so for 4.5 hours.
Wow.
And the slopes were absolutely empty. So you just go on this. I mean, some of the slopes were like 4 kilometers. You know, your quads would just be burning. And no queues, no waiting. In fact, you didn't have enough time to recover to enjoy the downhill skiing again. That's how awesome it was.
I learnt on the off season.
Yeah.
Because it was cheaper when we could go.
Yeah.
So you learnt very quickly because it was icy. So when you fall, it would
hurt,
bruise very badly.
Yeah, especially on snowboard.
Snowboard.
Yeah, I did skiing, so
Yeah.
probably a bit easier to ski than to snowboard. Depends.
Yeah. I haven't skied, so.
Wonderful. So, and you worked in Leaderville, and when did you meet Steve?
I met Steve when actually we met very young. We were at the same party when we were about 11, 12.
You just don't remember, or you do?
No, we do remember being at the same party because my uncle's was a pastor in the city.
Yeah.
And it was his 50th and his family knew my uncle.
Okay.
So we were at the same party together. And we just have this joke about God laughing, knowing what was going to happen. Rubbing his hands, yeah.
You have no idea what's going on with these kids.
So Steve and I met when we were going to a youth conference, and he was just this vivacious young man, and I thought, this guy is way too confident for me.
Okay.
And
but you were quite confident as well.
I was, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. A lot of my friends got married when they were 18, 19 in my church.
Okay.
So I was 23 when I met Steve, and I was...
old by then, in a way.
I was on the shelf. And people would say I'd have to marry a very unique person because I had a leadership ability, and I need a very strong person to be able
Of course.
to gel with you.
Yeah.
And Steve was that man.
Mm.
Yes. So we just stayed connected over a couple of years. We bumped each other in the city, and then about 23 we started dating.
Could you tell that he was after you, like in the real sense?
Oh, he was all guns blazing.
All guns blazing. So how did you resist all the other boys? I'm sure, being in a church, being amongst young people and going to conferences, I'm sure that many boys would have knocked at the door.
I didn't date at all. Pretty much since I started youth ministry, I just was not interested in dating until it was the right time. I really gave that part to God and said, when it's the right time, I wanna know.
So how would you decline those people that would have come to you?
Just apologise if I'd given any inclination that I was interested.
Yeah.
Say I'm sorry and I'm not interested, and we can still be friends.
Did you build a reputation of not being interested among your circle of friends?
I guess enough for when Steve came along, people were surprised that I was even pursuing that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and
because your friends would have known you. So if somebody would say to your friend, "Oh, I want to get in touch with Rosalind. What do you think? What I should do?" I'm sure your friends would have said, "No chance," or what would they have said to you?
Oh, I think you can have a chance.
Yeah.
Yeah, they might not have a try, but I was just waiting for that peace of God in me.
Okay.
When the time was right, and
were you afraid that you would make a mistake?
No.
No?
No. Because at that time I was doing ministry, so I was doing 3 different roles. I was studying at college, doing Bible study, so...
Yeah, you felt that you were in the right space.
Yes.
So God would prompt you.
Yes.
You'd have the discernment.
Absolutely.
If needed be.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because I got married when I was 29, and I was afraid that I would stuff up. In the sense, because I had done mission work and had traveled the world, and when you do mission work, you stay with families. You don't stay in hotels. You just can't afford it. And man, I thought, if I end up like some of these pastors and some of these men, I'm stuffed. I mean, God bless them, but some of the ladies that I met, I would not even consider in my mind to have such a marriage, and I was a little bit afraid in a sense. It was good, it was a healthy fear, because I didn't want to stuff up, and that's why I'm asking you this question, because so what I did is I made a covenant with myself at about 25 that I will not date another girl, even though I had many girlfriends before, until I find the one that I'm going to marry.
Yes.
And I started praying for my future wife. And I started fasting 1 day a week for my future wife.
Wow.
And I did that for a year, 52 days of fasting. And I was reading books about, marriage and getting ready to be married.
Yes.
I thought I was, preparing, I was actually preparing myself, God was working on me, not on my future wife, but I was praying for her, but God was working on me, And then 2 years and then 3 years. It was 3 years.
Wow.
So
you just keep fasting 1 day a week?
Yeah, 156 or no, more 162 days of fasting.
Amazing.
Yeah, and then when I met Raluca, as you said, I knew she was it, which is crazy. When I say that to people, they say, "What do you mean you knew she was it, man? That's impossible." And I said to them, "You just don't get it. It took me 3 years to get to that place, plus all the rest."
Yeah.
So, but by then the fear had dissipated. There was no more fear because I was in the right place. Yes. And I think you got there a lot quicker than I did, which is great.
Yeah,
so
I discovered it was like open doors.
So when he popped the question, you were ready?
Yes. Yes, I think we'd already decided what date we would get married, and
okay.
I think we would try to get married earlier, but it couldn't work.
Okay. So where did you get married?
We married in a church just north of Perth, and we just tried to find a church that would fit as many people as we could get there.
Okay.
We both had large communities. We wanted to be there, and then we had our reception in the South Perth Yacht Club in South Perth.
That's in Applecross, isn't it?
Applecross,
yeah.
Yes.
Beautiful place. I've been to weddings there.
Yes.
So what church did you get married in?
Good question. It was on Church Avenue in north east of Perth.
Okay.
Yeah, it was not one of our churches we went to. It was just a beautiful building we enjoyed. And
it was an old kind of church.
It was an older style church, and we could have our own music, so.
Which is good, because maybe in that era people were very hesitant to give out churches, and you had to, go by their rules. Their priest.
You had to have their own organ.
Yeah. Where did you go on your honeymoon?
We went to Kota Kinabalu.
Oh, Malaysia, beautiful.
Yeah.
Borneo.
Because I was a travel agent,
you knew
was able to get some nice deals.
Yeah. Snorkeling, beautiful there.
Oh, it's so beautiful.
Yeah,
they had an orangutan sanctuary attached to the resort. And
it's beautiful because, did you know that for a while we had direct flights from Perth to Kota? Malaysian Airlines flew direct.
Yes.
And then on and off season, most of the time you had to fly through KL. Beautiful place. I've been through Kota. I've done a lot of work on the island on Borneo with missions. So
Okay.
even one of our missionaries that we sponsored in Indonesia, she was working with the Dayak tribal people in Indonesia. So Borneo is quite big. It's called Kalimantan
Yes.
for the Indonesians. And I used to say to her, I'm going to sponsor you to go on holidays, so you got to go to Kuching and Kota Kinabalu every 2-3 months for, 3-4 days.
Beautiful.
And I'm going to pay for you to stay in a 4-star resort and just, have air conditioning and relax and just detach yourself from the ministry. And she felt so guilty to do that.
Wow.
But it was so good for her. Because those places are really, really nice.
Yes.
So how long were you in Kota?
We did 10 days there.
10 days, beautiful. Beautiful.
Yeah, we loved it there.
And
we
then,
love the tropical holidays.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've been back?
We haven't been back, but we've done quite a few.
So because you work in a travel agent, you could go quite easily in a lot of places.
Yeah, and
Good
stay at
deals.
really nice places at
Nice.
cheap prices.
Yeah. Well, you did well because now with COVID you can't travel, so at least you banked up a bit of
Yes.
holidays and some photos for that.
So
That's
true.
fine. You didn't fall pregnant for a while, and that was you wanted to have children, didn't you? Quite early, and it didn't happen for a few years.
Yeah, so when I was about 20, I was given a diagnosis that it was going to be very difficult to have children. And when the doctor gave me that diagnosis, when he left, I just had the peace of God just fill that hospital room. And that promise of everything is going to be okay. And we just held on to that despite, the setbacks of wanting to have children and trying for years and not being able to have them. It was an epic journey, and we just stood on God's promises. And I think infertility is such it's a topic that's not talked about in church very much, and I think a lot of families do face it, and it's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And to really journey through with God and to know Him in those places, in the valleys, and in those times when we're not getting what we want, even though you've said it, and to hold on to Him, it creates a depth in you that you didn't have before.
Yeah.
And when you walk with God in those really hard valleys, and it's a beautiful thing in that suffering that we have with Him. It creates compassion in you for others.
Yeah. It makes you more human, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Everyone wants to be spiritual, and God says, I want to make you more human.
Yeah.
I think to be fully godly is to be fully human. Do you understand what I'm saying? I mean, to understand the rawness of life and the difficulty of it all and the miracle of life. Because in effect, everything is a miracle. The fact that we're here is a miracle in itself.
Yes.
And we take for granted. We take procreation for granted. It's like we expect it to happen. I mean, it's the most amazing gift of God. But
yes.
it is a gift. It is a miracle that it happens.
It's so beautiful. And
Yeah.
I think the suffering in the church, we don't fully understand that it's a journey that when we do it with God, it's growth in us.
Yeah.
And you're right, like we become more human and understanding in the suffering of Christ, and we share in that with Him.
Yeah.
It's a special union that happens in those times. And unless we walk through them, we'll never truly understand. Yeah.
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 I mean, Amit, obviously, and the suffering that he's gone through. And we had him here at Kingdom Stories not long ago. And the way he shared and I mean, he battled cancer, and he was dead in every way, as you can imagine. And yet he sees it as one of the most wonderful chapters of his life, because the intimacy that he has with God is just amazing. And to have it on this side of eternity, to experience it in such depth,
Yes.
it just changes your perspective. Sometimes, going through a death experience is one of the biggest blessings, because it does ground you, it does make life look so much more real and meaningful, and the sense of appreciation for everything is just up there.
Yes.
We struggled to fall pregnant for 11 years.
Wow.
And so I feel with you. And then eventually we did conceive naturally, and we lost the baby. So it was heartbreaking, in the second semester. And
that's devastating. Yeah, we lost a baby in 2019. And after having 8 years of trying for a baby, we had Peter.
Yeah.
And we'd had Charlotte 5.5 years later.
Yes.
And we'd only ever fallen pregnant twice in all that time. So then we fell pregnant the third time. It was almost like it was holy to be pregnant. It was that precious. And so then to lose the baby, just before 12 weeks, Natanael was the only time when I fell pregnant. When the doctor gave us the news that we're pregnant, I was surprised, because we hadn't been, trying for 3, 4, 5 years at that time. It was a surprise to us. And the sensation when she told me, and I hadn't had it with any of my other children, was that the top half of me was in heaven. Yeah. And the bottom half of me was on earth. It was just the most elated feeling I'd had, unique to all the other ones. Yes. And when we'd found out that the child had passed at 11 weeks, it gave me an understanding of the preciousness of a Scrimgeour child. Yeah. And God couldn't wait till the end of their lives to have a Scrimgeour child in heaven. He wanted that child to grow up with him, face to face with him in heaven by the river of life. Yeah. And that's where we see that child that's waiting for us in heaven. And it's such a precious thing to know that that child is safe.
In the arms of the Father.
Will grow up in the light of his face. It's just amazing.
He's part of the cloud of witnesses.
Yeah.
Cheering you on to finish your race well.
Yeah, and we'll see him again.
Yeah, he's playing with Yoshebed, our daughter.
Yes.
My mom and dad are there as well.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Apparently there's probably about a quarter of heaven is full of kids, There's a lot of miscarried children in the world and aborted children. Probably half of heaven is probably kids.
Yeah, it's a fun place then.
Yeah, there's a lot of noise.
Yeah. Kids bring so much life.
I sometimes ask my kids, I said to them, how was it in heaven? Can you tell me? And until the age of 5, they used to tell me things that were very particular that they wouldn't have known any other way. I asked my 7-year-old the other day, I said, do you remember how it was in heaven? She said, no, I don't remember anymore.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
We were on a trip in Queensland, and we were at the end of the trip, and Stephen had been praying. It was at night time.
Yeah.
I had gone to bed and I was just reading my Bible. And Steve was praying for our daughter. She was about 1 at that time. Just praying over her future and her husband and who she'd have in her life and her kids, and Steve just felt God was just like bringing gifts and giving them to her as he was asking her.
Yeah.
And then he went and prayed, and God was like, if you pray for another half an hour, I'll reveal myself to you. And so he prayed, and in that time he fell asleep, and then he got up, and then he came to bed, and I just would have been reading the Bibles talking about stealing God's glory, and we just spent some time together just repenting for times when we'd stolen God's glory in our family and what he's been doing in our family.
Yeah.
And so the next day we're driving to the Daintree rainforest.
Yeah.
And we're talking about our dreams. We both had dreamed that night, and Steve had a dream where he'd met a person that he'd connected with later on, and they're doing some kingdom work together.
Yes.
And in my dream, I'd had a person in my life that had persecuted me as a Christian in high school, and in the dream was an angel, and I was interpreting the symbols on this angel to him, and as I was speaking to him, he was being transformed into his fullness into God.
Yes.
So he would not be just a baby Christian, he would be instantly serving the kingdom. So we're talking about our dreams in the car, and in the back seat, my son pipes up, "Oh, I went to heaven last night." And then our son Peter just starts to disclose what happens. And because of what had happened to us, we'd had these incredible dreams. And then the way he described it was like he was reading from the Bible.
Yeah.
And the words that came out of his mouth were not of a 6-year-old.
Sure.
Talking about holiness. And he described the way that God spoke to him. And he sat on God's lap.
Yeah.
And when he sat on God's lap, he couldn't see God at first because he was so bright. And then God let him see him.
Yeah. And
just the way a child describes heaven. And he said he sat on his lap when he was on the throne. And he said all the bottom of my legs was full of light because I was sitting on God, and he is light.
Yeah.
And then he described about eating. He said as soon as I was hungry, God brought me a sandwich. And he said it was delicious. It was like all different flavours at once as he ate this sandwich.
So there's bread in heaven.
It was beautiful. Yeah, wow. Just the encounters that he had there. It just, when you're having a bad day,
it changes everything, doesn't it?
You just think on him, God, full of light, and the words he spoke over our son about who he is and who he will be.
At such a young age. Does he still remember it?
Yes, we talk about it often. So
That's
we wrote it down, and actually when he was talking about it in the car, we quickly recorded on our phone.
Good.
Just to a snapshot.
Yeah. I mean, you want to capture that moment because it's so powerful. I mean, that keeps you going. It just, I mean, to get a glimpse of heaven. When you think about Stephen, when he saw the glory of God, he was praying for those who were killing him. Didn't care, he was just so absorbed by it all.
Yes.
That's amazing.
So he saw the angels in front of the throne, so thousands of angels worshipping before the throne.
Wow.
And then he saw the warrior angels, he called them.
Yeah. And
they had special swords for fighting the devil.
Wow.
So whenever he's, having a bad dream or we're having a bad day,
he reminds
think of the warfare, that is going on that we don't see on our behalf.
Yeah. Man, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
And it's nice that this revelation came through your son, not just through you or Steve. I think there's more joy in that when you see your children experiencing the presence of God and being open in their hearts to accept that and allow that to happen.
Oh,
It's another dimension, isn't it? Another level of joy.
It's so beautiful to see them encounter God in that way. It's just so precious.
That's good on you. I mean, good on you, Steve, because you facilitate that. I mean, I think every parent wants that, but it's in the relentless of every day, in pursuing God and creating that space for Him, and worshipping and serving Him, and then those things come as a byproduct of, our positioning in Christ.
And just the language of God speaking to a child, and for us to lower ourselves as parents to be able to make it understandable for them.
It's interesting. I recently led a CEO of a company in Europe to the Lord. I've been coaching this guy for almost 2 years.
Wow.
And eventually I led him to the Lord.
Beautiful.
I started off as positive psychology coaching and finished in spiritual coaching and then salvation coaching. And I don't know what it is now. It's equipping, it's discipleship coaching. But he said, what Bible college should I go to? What should I do? And I said, go to the library and start reading children's storybooks about Jesus.
Wow.
And he said, why? I said, because they're the most beautiful stories you'll ever read about the Lord. I want you to fall in love with Jesus. I said, you don't need the thick theology. You don't need the, Matthew Henry's commentary on the Bible, even though it's wonderful and maybe one day you will get there.
Yes.
Just read, I said, kids' stories. Read the Bible, the story of children.
I love that.
Because if you can receive the gospel and the kingdom as a child, that means you'll get there.
Yes. That
the
softness.
others, the others mean well, but they make it harder. You got to get your head around it. So
there's so much knowledge.
I love reading children's stories. Like they just, for me, they help me. I do a show about clarity. It's called A Bit of Clarity, and the key to everything that I do is about offering that clarity. And I've learned that by listening to children and how they structure everything, how they frame everything, they make it so clear. They don't complicate things. They make it clear. So if you can explain it to a child, you can explain it to anybody.
Yeah, such a great.
And the gospel can be explained to a child.
Yes.
And then listen to it being told by a child. I think that's even more beautiful.
Yeah. Daughter Charlotte, she just loves Jesus. Just today, when I put her to sleep, I said, just talk to Jesus, you fall asleep. I just saw her just reach on there and go, just kiss her, yeah. I said, he's with you, like he's right in front of you. And just about to close the door, I saw that snapshot of her
kissing Jesus. Yeah, that's beautiful. I mean, this is priceless. What you're instilling in them is just beautiful, because it gets into their DNA, in their blood, in every cell of their being. It's an identity that can't be stolen from them. Absolutely. I think if parents, those who hear us, if they can tap into this power of God and just allow it every day to drip on their children with blessings, we bless our children. I bless my kids almost every week. Yes. I look them in the eyes and I recite the priestly blessing from, Aaron's priestly blessing from Numbers. And I just bless them with whatever the Lord gives me prophetically in that moment. And I try and do that every week. And I thought to myself, if I do that every week for 6 years, that means they heard their dad blessing them 300 times. Now a child that has heard his or her father bless them 300 times will have an edge, a spiritual edge in everything they do in life. Their identity, their love, their assurance, their stability. I mean, we just invest in them, the love of God.
Yes.
And it's so simple to do, but so difficult to do at the same time, because the whole hell comes against you. When you want to do that, everything will come against you. But if you're able to just resiliently carry on and go for it, whether you feel like it or not, the results are endless. It's just beautiful.
Yeah, we try and instill in our kids that they have the world at their feet and to be good stewards.
What touched me very much was a good friend of our family. They're German. Oh, she's Australian, he's German. And when they introduced their boy to me, he's 4 years old. At the time, he was 4 years old. And he would say, "This is Yuri, and Yuri loves Jesus." And you know, when I meet most other parents, even Christian parents, and they introduce their children, they would say, "This is Peter, and he's good at basketball." Or "This is Joy, and she loves dancing." And they will have an action or a hobby or something attached to it. But this scenario of Rudy, who's my German friend, when he says, "This is Yuri, and he loves Jesus," I thought how powerful that is.
Yeah, beautiful.
You know, at the age of 4, when the child knows that he loves Jesus, what an identity. What an identity.
Beautiful.
It's not performance-based. It's not worldly.
It's just
It's
who we
heavenly.
are.
Yeah. And I think, you know, as parents, I just pray that we get it. You know?
Yes. Yeah.
You know what I mean? That we get it.
Grace to get it, yeah.
Because you don't want to miss it, you know. I mean, I meet so many parents who regret that they haven't done enough for their children, or they haven't said enough, or they ignored those early years, and they live with so many regrets. And I don't want that.
Yes.
I don't want that. So I feel very responsible. And I know I still make mistakes, but we don't stop there.
Yeah, that's right. We're always learning, especially as they grow, to always be prayerful about what to do next.
Yeah. Yeah. So what's next for you? You have 3 beautiful children. You're writing a book.
Yes. I felt pretty early on in our journey that God wanted us to share our testimony about what was happening and how He led us through, and to see the promise fulfilled.
Yes.
And that promise was fulfilled in 3rd of January this year.
Okay.
And
when the little one was born.
Yeah, when number 3 was born, that was...
Number 4, really.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And...
Is that the story? The story is of the last few years, last 3-4 years?
So there's from the beginning, so
okay.
From when I was 20 all the way through. So starting from me believing it, and then...
So it's a story about infertility and coming to believe and carry on and seeing the miracle.
Yeah, really to get some fundamental things right in your home life, right as well, and just your walk with God. Like, if you have a promise from God, to be all in.
Yeah.
Like if you're half in, then it doesn't get you very far.
That's right.
If you throw everything in, then it's whether you reach your goal, you don't reach your goal, you're gonna be so much closer to God than if you don't get there in the end.
Yeah.
But the story is about to really press into God and to be close to God in that season.
You have a title for the book yet?
Still praying about it, but In the Pursuit of Life is...
In the Pursuit of Life.
Life, and my heart is to see that families would have their own breakthroughs in this area.
Yeah. To
see their wombs be opened in the church that haven't been opened before. Yeah.
It will bring a lot of healing to a lot of people, I'm sure. Are you almost done with the book? How far are you through it?
Yeah, just a couple of chapters left to go, and then I'll be editing, so...
Okay.
Yeah, it's
You've
pretty
got somebody to help you?
Yes.
You've got a writing coach or...
Yeah, I do have a few people that I'm in contact with that can helped me in the process.
No.
So definitely a learning process.
It is.
And discipline.
And I don't want to disappoint you, but writing it is the easiest part. Everything else that comes after it is a lot harder.
I've heard the editing's hard.
Editing is hard, copywriting or doing the, final edits, and then, the publishing, the typesetting, the cover.
Yes.
And then marketing is a huge thing. But please do an audiobook, because Steve prefers audiobooks, I think.
Okay.
So people would love to hear your voice as well.
Yeah.
So read the story as well. I think it'll be nice.
Yeah, I feel like it's a gift to be multiplied.
Yeah.
That faith gift. It's not just for me, it's to be multiplied.
Sure. Well, that's the apostolic keys and the multiplication. So if you get that, I'm glad that you clicked. You saw the light. It's wonderful.
Yes.
Well, I can't wait to get my hands on it and to read it and to inspire others and bless others. And I just want to encourage you to share your story whenever you have opportunities, because it does build people up. People learn through stories. And we learn so much we even heal by learning other people's stories.
Yes.
We are journeying with a lady at the moment who, she's been trying to have a child for over 20 years, and she's in her early 40s.
Yes.
And just recently she miraculously conceived naturally.
Beautiful.
And then she lost the baby.
Oh, Natanael.
And it's only been a couple of weeks, and it's raw and it's painful, and
Yes.
we are journeying with her. And my wife, obviously, because she's been there, she's more in tune than I am. I still believe she will have a baby. I still believe that she will conceive again and she will carry it to full term.
Yes.
And I say you hold on to that promise of God, and you hold on to hope, and don't give up.
Yes.
Age is a number, There's still...
Sarah was 90.
Yeah. I don't want this particular lady to wait until 90.
Yes.
But, mid-40s or early 40s is still okay.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Let's just carry on and believe. And I've seen so many miracles and so many miracle babies and conceptions. So there's enough evidence out there to believe. There's more reason to believe than not to believe.
Yes.
So...
Yeah. Well, when we lost the baby in 2019, I had the most incredible thing happen to me. I was just sad all the time. And for months afterwards, Steve had moved through it, and I just wouldn't lift. And I said to him, I think I need to go get some counselling, grief counselling. It's just this sadness wouldn't lift. And then I'd have the presence of God fall on me just when I was in my home, when I was out, but it would just be all-encompassing.
Yes.
To the point where sometimes Steve would come home from work and I couldn't do anything. It was amazing. And
healing.
And one night Steve come home and I said, I can't finish dinner. Like the glory of God in me is so thick, I can't do anything.
Yeah.
And he goes, "You're drunk."
Hannah.
And I just had to just sit in the glory. And then after a time, I said to him, it's actually healing.
Yeah.
It was healing me.
Yeah.
And
direct heavenly counselling. Couldn't have to pay for it.
It was amazing. And so this season of God healing me, and it was just a beautiful time of him coming in close when I needed it the most. Yeah.
It's allowing him to be God, I think.
Yeah.
It's interesting. We know all this as Christians. Yet when we need it the most, it's like we forget.
Yes.
But it's uplifting to know that, you bounce back and you did receive the promise.
Yes.
You're joyful now and you can write the story.
Yeah, I'm the tree planted by waters.
Yeah. Hallelujah. That's beautiful. Well, I really love what you shared here tonight. Talking about legacy. What would you like to be remembered by?
So that dream that I had of the gift being multiplied when I was pregnant with Charlotte last second, I was very heavily pregnant, and I just felt, I just don't want this just for me. I want this to be for many, many women, to have this feeling of being fully pregnant and the promise about to be fulfilled.
Yeah.
And that's my dream, is to have many women have that breakthrough in their own families.
Yeah.
And to know that feeling of God's gift inside of them.
Yeah.
And to hold it and to have it running around in their home and talking back at them, that gift of God in their families. And for that to be a legacy, to have other families to know that and to experience that.
Experience the gift.
Yeah.
That's beautiful, Rosalind.
Yeah.
Well, what a story, eh? I'm sure that among the many people who are watching this or listening to the podcast, there are people who are still waiting for the promises of God, especially for children. Well, we pray that you will experience the gift in your own home, in your own family, and you will see this miracle happen for you as well. It's happened for us. We have 4 children, 1 in safe deposit in heaven. Rosalind has 3 here and 1 in heaven as well. Don't give up. God can and God does perform miracles. In fact, that's his nature. He doesn't have to try to make miracles or perform miracles. He is supernatural. He doesn't have to try to be supernatural. That's his nature. For us, it's supernatural. For him, it's normal. So just believe in that and receive the gift of God. Receive and experience that wholeness that he brings to you. I pray that this really blesses you and inspires you and gives you hope. And when this book comes out, you'll be able to read it or listen to it to build even more faith into you. If you love this content, and I'm sure that you do distribute it and pass it on to others and encourage others to listen to it, to watch it, so we can help the people out there trust more in the Lord and just enjoy the journey with God every day, giving in and allowing God to be God in every situation in our lives. The Lord bless you, and we'll see you next time at Kingdom Stories from Down Under.
Thank you for joining us on Kingdom Stories from Down Under. We'd love it if you would subscribe, rate, and share these stories with your wider community. And remember, every story is worth sharing, including yours.